At this point, we have created a project called My First Project, which is AR enabled. Now we'll use SketchUp to build our scene and robot. What you're looking at is SketchUp with a scene that has nothing but a floor. We're going to build a 360-degree enclosure ramp that will confine the vehicle that we are going to create. I'll use the circle tool to create a circle. Let's give it a radius of 10 feet. And I'll use a line tool to build the side of the ramp. Let's give it 2 feet. Let's make it 4 feet. Let's remove the center of the circle. Create another line, which is also 4 feet. Now use the arc tool to create the ramp itself. Now use the push-pull tool or the follow me tool to create the ramp itself. Let's color the inside of the ramp black because we'll be using a light sensor. Now let's build our vehicle, which will be a differential drive with various sensors mounted on top of it. When you create a vehicle, what you want to do is use the wheel axle and point it in the negative X direction. There's a technical limitation in which that is necessary to build your vehicle. Later, when you group it, you could orient it any way you want to. Now let's use the scale tool, and holding down the control key, I could scale it on both sides at one time. Let's make the outer distance 24 inches. That's the outside distance of the wheels. And let's make the diameter of the wheel 6 inches. And again, holding down the control key, let's make it also 6 inches. Now, let's use the tape measure to measure 2 feet back. And this is where we'll put our caster wheel. And let's make the height 3 inches. And finally, we'll use a box. Let's make this 30 inches and 3 inches high. Let's resize a box so it's half the size. That way the wheels will be sticking out, which will help with the balance. And let's move the box over with an overhang of 4 inches. I'll make that 2 inches. Now we'll group everything and set its type to differential drive. Now let's position the differential drive. We'll just move it back to the right a little bit. On the other side, let's create a sphere. And make it 12 inches radius. Now let's go mount some light sensors on the differential drive. First, let's use a tape measure to figure out where to put it. Let's go back 2 inches, and then we'll go over 2 inches. Make it 1 inch. And on this side, back 2 and over 1. Let's create a brightness sensor and mount it on the drive. And let's configure it. Let's make the mass something very small so it won't tilt over the differential drive. So let's set the half view angle to something much bigger. Let's give it 20 degrees. And the view size X and Y, let's set that to 64. So we have something fairly large to look at. And let's give it a name. Left brightness. Now let's just copy this. I'll hold down the control key and then it should have all the same values, but this time we'll change it to right brightness and click OK. Now let's mount the two brightness sensors so that they don't move by creating some fixed joints. And then say attach entities to joint. That's the left one. Now let's do the right one. And we'll click each one and click relocate, which places the joint directly in between the center masses of what it is connected to. Now let's export. And then bring up Visual Studio and hit the F5 key to run it. Alright. Let's open up the camera, see what the camera sees. For the left brightness sensor, this is what we see. And for the right, we also see the ball. Let's close this. Go back into SketchUp. And let's give the wheel axle some power so it can run into the ball. I'll set the left wheel power to 0.3 and the right wheel power to 0.3. Also, I'll set the mass of the chassis to 10 so that it has some power when it hits the ball. Let's press F5, export it, and run it. Okay, the ball's not moving. We need to set it to dynamic. And let's configure the ball. Give it a really small mass, 0.001. Let's give it a high restitution, 0.95. Export again. And run it again. At this point, we have created a very simple scene consisting of a vehicle with a couple of light sensors attached in an enclosed area that has a ball. But we haven't written any code that controls the robot. The next video, my first project controller part, shows you how to do this.